Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music. And today, well, I am in Studio One at the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society, but our guest is not. This is the first Skype podcast I've ever done. And part of the reason is when I first talked with Jeff Arbor, and we can discuss a little bit about how that happened. He was in Maine, he was going to Maine, and I was in DC, and he said, will you do Skype? And I said, well, not yet, but so made it happen. So everybody, welcome Mr. Jeff Arbor. Hey, Jeff, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we were at Wooten Woods when we met a couple weeks ago. You were volunteering, helping out at the camp. And I think they introduced you by saying that you did Reiki. You're a Reiki teacher, master, whatever the proper word is. And so then you were helping me with something else, and I was telling you about the podcast. And I said, well, are there sort of similarities or things that are the same or different or what with between music and Reiki? And you said, oh yeah. And then you started talking about Tibetan healing bowls, and the next thing you know, I said, oh, we got to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's both aspects or both things, both Reiki and music have been wonderful healing sources in my life, both from that vibrational standpoint of working with energy on the Reiki side, but also in playing music and putting energy and intention behind what I'm playing, but also playing acoustic guitar and feeling those notes resonate through my body as I'm playing is always something that's very healing. And I have a twin brother, and a couple of years back, he told me that I should never wear shoes on stage, so that I could feel the vibrations in my feet and allow that to let it move me, allow it to kind of inspire the music I'm playing. And I haven't worn shoes on stage since, and I don't think I'll ever go back.
Interesting. I have noticed some players who don't wear shoes, and I guess that's the reason, huh?
Yeah, especially as a bass player, it's nice to kind of feel the resonance through the floor, especially if you're working with a big rig. It's nice to feel those vibrations because for me, they're very healing. It's the same kind of healing energy that I get through Reiki, I get through music as well.
All right, well, we're going to get into that a lot in a few minutes. When did music kind of come into your life? Did your parents play? Did you take lessons? What did you start playing first? When did that happen? Pretty young. You were young, huh?
Yeah, so my first real experience with live music was with my father, who's an organ player. And he's tremendous. I remember him like playing, the theme to Fraggle Rock on the organ when we were kids, or Sesame Street. And he would jazz it up and make everything fun and kind of dance around. And, watching him play organ with both hands, and he had a little percussion box to do stuff, and his feet were going as well. It was really kind of magical to be around as a young kid and hear just the emotion that could be drawn out of an instrument and then, shared with other people.
When you were like 5 years old or something? Or?
Oh, as early as I can remember, he was playing organ. Yeah, probably younger than that.
Yeah.
My grandmother always had an organ in her house, so anytime we'd go over there, she'd have a little bucket of toys, and the organ was right behind there, so he'd jump on and play some music.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was my first real inspiration of listening and live music. But I didn't start playing music until, I guess, the recorder in elementary school. We all kind of played those. But then I got into saxophone in 4th grade. So I did that in 4th and 5th grade. And then 6th grade came, and they wanted to grade us on music. And there was a choice between a study hall to do all your homework in school or to do band, which to me is a tough choice for any 6th grader to make. So I kind of dropped it at that point. And I sang in a few different groups as far as school groups. And then I got into guitar when I was 18. I had a really good friend, Chad Haynes, who is a tremendous guitar player. And it was just inspiring to be around him and watch what he could do with the instrument. And at one point I came home and I was like, Chad, you gotta get me started. And we went to a music store. He picked out a guitar for me, and it was one of those magic moments as a non-musician to watch him pick up a guitar and then play a blues progression with the sales associate at the music store. And I was just amazed. I was like,
how do you do this? Right.
These guys don't even know each other. They didn't talk about what they were going to play. And all of a sudden they're making tremendous music. So that's really kind of where my love was reborn. And that was, 20 plus years ago. And I haven't put it down since. Transitioned to the bass a few years later, and love it there. It's a lot of fun.
So when you were first starting to play guitar, what kind of music were you playing? Rock, all kinds? And has that changed in the last, since you picked up bass?
Yeah, so I definitely started in the rock spectrum, any kind of strumming stuff, some Bob Dylan, basic blues stuff, kind of anything to get me started. And a lot of what I learned on guitar was just, I tried to do it as simple as possible because I was new. So it's just strum those chords and see how it sounds. Mm-hmm. And then it just develops from there. And I took a few lessons here and there to kind of set me on the right path. But as far as musical influences, they're all over the place. Certainly when I started on bass, I started listening to more funk, and I always listened to R&B and Motown, and that realm of stuff. And I connected it more with what I was playing for music once I picked up bass and realized that those grooves are really kind of the heart and soul of what I love about music. They're just so much fun. Kind of get people moving.
Yeah. So you've been playing in bands sort of since then? Do you play in bands now? Or?
Yeah. So I was in Vermont for 20 years. I went to school at the University of Vermont, and I played in a few bands in and around Burlington. But I recently transitioned back to Maine, down in Portland, and I'm playing with that friend who helped me pick up the guitar all those years.
Wow.
So yeah, we met in kindergarten. He's always been a strong influence to me.
That's my bird clock.
That's wonderful.
All right. Okay. Anyway.
But yeah, he was always a strong influence. And whenever we'd get together and play, it was a lot of fun, but it was only a couple times a year. So when I was transitioning out of Vermont, I called him up and asked him, I was like, if I move to Maine, I was like, can we start a band? And actually, get out and start gigging. And the past 6 months, I don't know, we've probably had 12, 13 gigs, something like that. And they just keep popping up. And It's been so much fun playing with him, knowing that we have so much more in common than just music. We've been through a lot together as friends over the last 30, 40 plus years. So it's been great kind of getting on stage and seeing what develops.
That's amazing. Well, I'd like to get there someday too. Working on the little guitar here and really enjoying it. Just loved Victor Wooten's camp, and quite some good vibes there, huh? A lot of good learning. You spent a week there, or 2 weeks there?
Yeah, well, this recent time I spent a week, but that was my third year of going back. It kind of changed my perspective on what music is or could be when I got down there. And watching Victor Wooten play bass, it's easy to get intimidated and say, why am I playing the same instrument as him?
Yes, I hear you.
But the real beauty about music in my mind is that it's all individual. So Victor is never going to play like me. I'm never going to play like Victor, and we're not going to play the same as you. But what I really love and enjoy about music is hearing people's individual expression on their instrument, whatever that is, because nobody's ever going to play like you. You'll be influenced by certain people, but your playing will always be different because it's coming from a different place, given that you and your soul is so unique on this planet. So it kind of gave me the renewed hope to just be who I am as a musician, however that comes out, whether it's guitar or bass or piano or playing percussion, or maybe someday getting back into saxophone. Whatever it looks like for me, that's what I want to express and share with the world.
Oh, that's awesome. Music is such a powerful thing. I mean, it's just crazy. But So talk a little bit about how you got into, I have your business card,
Mhm.
Arbor Coaching, Slow Down and Breathe Deeper, Mindfulness Coach and Reiki Practitioner. So how did you kind of get into that? When did that happen?
So my first introduction to energy work was, I think, about 10 years ago. I was going through a stressful time in my life, and I was getting a lot of migraines, and just debilitating migraines where I would just need to go home and sleep. And I would really feel the effects for a couple days after and wouldn't feel right. And I had a friend at the time. I was hanging out with her and started to get a migraine. And she looked at me and she's like, "What's going on with you? Something's happening." And I was like, "Well, I'm about to get a migraine. Like, I got to drive home before it hits and get to bed and close all the blinds so that I can really just focus on relaxing." And she told me to sit down, and she was like, she put her hands on my head, and the migraine was gone almost
Wow.
instantaneously. And I said, what did you just do to me? Like, what was that? Like, I was completely unaware of what energy work was. And she didn't study Reiki, but she did a lot of other healing work. And she's like, basically all the energy in your head just doesn't know where to go. So it's forcing you to relax so that it can clear out. And that kind of inspired me to start looking at other alternative healing pathways. And Reiki was the one that popped up for me. So I first studied it in 2012, and then this past year I got my third level certification to be able to teach it.
Oh, nice.
And it's a lovely practice that I use on myself. I use on others. I do it long distance, so we could do energy healing over Skype, because it's a universal energy that's kind of always there, and
Wow.
where we're kind of connected more than we know. If you ever had a situation where a relative is across the country and something happens to them and you feel off, and then call them and hear about it. I have a twin brother, and it happened with us where during that stressful time in my life, I fell and smashed my face on the ground and split a tooth up to the root. And my twin brother,
Ouch.
Mike, yeah, my twin brother, Mike, called me up the next day, and he was like, "Are you feeling okay?" And I hadn't told him anything at that point. And he's like, "I got a lot of tooth pain, and I feel like it's coming from you."
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, well, I got stitches in my chin. I had emergency surgery on my tooth last night." And it's just one of those things where, we're more connected than we know. And it takes kind of slowing down and ignoring a lot of the noise out there to kind of tap into that connection. So I feel like Reiki does a great job of that, of helping people slow down and help them realize who they are, which is very important in this life.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had Reiki a couple of times. A really good friend of ours, Ann Lesson, does Reiki, and I think she talks about it in terms of it allows things to sort of shift and settle and move around and get worked
Hmm.
out a bit. What it
Yeah,
takes, explain Reiki for people who don't even have any idea what it is.
sure. So Reiki basically breaks down into two components. The Rei part of it is a universal, and the key, like a chi, is the energy. So it's a universal energy that kind of runs through all of us. And through the work that I've done, I can help them realize kind of that their body can heal itself. So
Hmm.
we create blockages, whether it's from traumas or different things that have happened to us in our lives, and those blocks can kind of restrict the body's ability to heal itself. So Reiki is one of the many energy techniques that allows that energy to flow more freely. So as I'm working with somebody, I might feel kind of stuck energy around their heart, and so I'll just work more around their heart and allow that energy to flow much more freely. And after a session, that energy is still working in them and helping them kind of remember who they are.
And it's with the use of the hands, isn't it? Mainly.
It is, but there's also a connection you can tap into from a distance. So when I do remote sessions, I'll connect with people on Skype or the phone and just have a conversation about what's going on in their lives, how they're feeling, what challenges they're facing. And that's something that I'll tap into as I'm sending them healing energy.
So you've talked a little bit about, the healing vibrations of music, and now you're talking Reiki and energy and healing. So how would you kind of describe the correlation that you feel, or the whatever symbiosis or between music
Mhm.
and Reiki? Do you have the ways that you explain that?
Yeah, I think ultimately it all comes down to vibrations. And you can feel it when you go see a live performance versus listening to something on your iPod or iPhone. There's just a much different feel when there's a vibratory resonance from the speakers. Like, little earbuds aren't going to do much for your body, but if you can feel the thump, whether it's of a kick drum or bass at a live show, you can feel it well up inside of you. And I love the experience of a live show, especially if it's not too loud. As I get
know.
older and older, I bring earplugs to every show I
Oh
go
man,
to.
hey, I just got hearing aids.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough, but kind of that ultimate vibration that you can get from a live performance is very similar to energy that's being shared during a Reiki session. And I had a recent training. You mentioned with the Tibetan singing bowls, and it's wonderful and amazing that just having some kind of vibrating resonance next to you can help heal what's going on in your body. And as we spoke when we were in Tennessee about the one exercise that I did that kind of really blew me away, of ringing a bowl about 10 feet away from another student and then walking it towards a person on a table, and the tone of the bowl actually changing as when I got to a certain point close to the person. And the instructor was like, yeah, basically at that point, something in their energy is off. So she had me just kind of keep ringing the bowl and swiping it through that area with my hand. And the tone of the bowl was changing less and less as I was continually doing that. And it's almost like it's not almost like it is her body kind of ringing or vibrating with the same resonance of the bowl to help heal anything that's going on in her energetic body. And it was really wild to hear the difference in the tone.
So as you were ringing the bowl, and as you moved it toward the person who was the patient, I guess, or
Yep. Client. Yep.
client, that the person's own vibrations, I guess, interacted with the vibrations of the bowl.
Yes.
Kind of mixing like waves on the water a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And as I, kept at it, those vibrations were getting more and more in sync. So it was wild to see, like in a short time frame. Like I only did it for a couple minutes, and that bowl went from drastic change in tone to only a slight change in tone just in a couple minutes of doing that.
Wow. Just vibrations is almost like it's the key. I guess it is who we are, what we are. We're just made up of vibrations, and we put out energy, and we have energy going up in
Mm-hmm.
us and all around us. And when you talk about healing, you can think of it from the standpoint of, well, you get better, but it must be something more like a alignment of energies or something. How would you? What is that healing actually about? What's going on when you're healed? You're
Yeah, I
healing.
mean, for me, in my experience, it helps you remember who you are. So the more that I've kind of worked with these healing arts, kind of get to that underlying sense of self, and you ignore a lot of the noise that's on top of that. There's so many like societal influences that kind of affect who we are as we, assimilate into life, especially as a teenager, where you want to be just like everybody else. And then, at least in my experience, when I was in my 20s, I was like, I don't want to be anybody else. Like, I want to be myself. And, it took a little while to realize that. But I think a lot of healing that I've done is, just about remembering who you are. And that may be like, you finding your purpose in life, or maybe just you remembering energetically like who you are, which is something that's easy to forget as we, kind of push ourselves into jobs we might not enjoy and doing a lot of things that we don't like in life. But having those things that kind of ground us and remind us who we are. And for me, that's a lot of that's been meditation and just sitting in silence, and a little bit of chanting in the meditation as well, to again feel the vibratory resonance as you're sitting there, and helps me remember exactly who I am, even on the most stressful days. So for me, all of this healing and music is all about remembering who we are. And once you remember who you are, expressing who you are is a much easier path.
Wow. So you go through life, you have a job, and then you become a parent, and then you have cars, and then you do this, and we all have so much stress going on all the time. So when you're talking about, because you've said it a number of times, remembering who you are, I guess that's getting rid of the noise and the stuff that's not really your essence. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. You're spot on.
I mean, we've been talking Reiki, music, healing. If you listen or play music, so you're saying that it actually, that in of itself is healing, and I guess there's different degrees depending on how deeply you get into the playing, or.
Yeah, and for me, like, there's an artist that I just connected with recently named East Forest, and he has a couple albums, one called Music to Die To and Music to Be Born To. And as soon as I hear those first couple notes, it's instant relaxation. And part of it is remembering where I first heard it, but part of it is just the energy and intention that the artist is putting into creating that music. And that's a pretty amazing thing, to just hear a song and instantly relax. And obviously that goes the other way too. If you're, into punk or death metal, like that music is never going to relax you, but it's going to bring you up and get you excited. And so I think across the entire music spectrum, there's music to pull out every kind of emotion possible.
All right.
Whatever you're looking for. And that's a powerful thing. It doesn't even need to have words, for you to really feel what that artist is trying to say.
We've got a pretty crazy world out there. It seems crazier all the time in some ways. But part of our mission here at Planetary Gig Society is, trying to make connections through music, but having the intention of creating peace. Do you have thoughts? You obviously have found something that works for you, works for a lot of people. Maybe I'll have to call up for a lesson, a session. What else would you suggest? If you could, flip a switch or throw something out there and people would immediately grab onto it or understand what you were talking about. What can we, musicians, non-musicians, but how can we use music to help really make a difference in society? Have you thought about that? Do you have some thoughts on that?
I think the biggest thing, and it's something that always comes up when I'm in a healing session, is that no matter what I'm doing, the energy and intention that I'm putting behind that healing session is what's most important. So if I'm holding that person that's with me with love and compassion, then that's what's gonna come through. And I think as musicians, we may not always realize that the energy and intention that we put into our music is what people are going to get out of it. And that's something that Victor talks about a lot is, as you're writing something or you're looking for inspiration, like, think about what you want the end listener to feel and then put yourself in that place. And so if you want to write a really happy tune because you're feeling great, then put that energy and intention into how you play. Likewise, if you want to, feel a sense of sadness or loneliness in your music, then put that energy and intention into it, because that's what people will get out of it. And I think the parallel between the healing work and the music, it's direct in that regard, where, and probably goes to anything else in life. It's whatever that intention is behind it is what you're going to get out of it, and what other people are going to get out of it.
Wow. Yeah. One of the things that really grabbed me when I first read Victor's book, The Music Lesson, was when Michael, the teacher, says, intention is the key to everything.
Yes.
And it's been, very inspirational. It really helped start our organization, because we want to, promote the conversation about intention of actually, making a better world, bringing peace to ourselves and others. And music is so powerful that it seems like a pretty good path to go on.
Absolutely. And I think something I just want to mention that's really important is that everybody is a musician and has a musician inside. And so often in our society, especially, we put these great musicians on pedestals and be like, oh, well, he's a prodigy, he's really good at what he does, like he should be the one playing music. Where, from my perspective, like, I want everybody playing music. My twin brother has two daughters, and to watch them play percussion on driftwood and rocks and whatever else was laying around the house, it gives me a sense of pride that there's a communal aspect of music that we kind of discount in our society. And playing music, for me, is so much more rewarding than healing music or hearing music. Like, I love to listen to music, but I just really love to play it because I'm expressing what's inside of me. And so often we kind of draw the line between musicians and non-musicians, but I would love everybody in this world to play music. And I think we would be in a much better place if everybody was expressing themselves in some way, especially, even just like a drum circle and the healing energy that you can feel just locking into rhythms with people. And that conversation is something that, is so much more than what we could discuss with words, where you just kind of feel, again, going back to the vibration of the music itself and allowing that to be a healing aspect of life.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's right on. I've got a little granddaughter who's a year and a half, and just seeing her bounce around the music. She got a harmonica in her mouth this weekend and learned how to blow in and out. There is something innate, but then so many of us just kind of forget about it. I didn't really have a lot of music in my house growing up. I mean, we listened to records and stuff, but I thought it was out there. It was something for other people to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out, oh my God, it's so amazing. So that's excellent point. And, really appreciate your insight. Just in the event people want to know where to reach you, what is the website again?
It's jeffarbor.com, JEFFARBOR.com.
Yeah, I've been on there. I've checked it out a little bit. Now I'm really intrigued about this. I think I could use some energy, overcome, learn some arpeggios and stuff.
Yeah, with learning music, there's always more. Yeah. And I think it's the same with energy work. You're never really going to master it, but there's always more to learn. And I think in a lot of my pursuits in life, it's nice to have those never-ending goals. Just like you learn something and move on to something else. And at some points, you kind of turn around and look back and go, wow, I've learned a lot. But then keep going.
Yeah.
And keep diving in, because there's always more to explore.
That's for sure. Well, Jeff, I really want to thank you very much for taking the time. I'm glad we made this happen. First Skype podcast. Very excited. Thank you for the inspiration.
Absolutely.
Certainly look forward to seeing you again soon, talking, or maybe over the Skype machine here.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care.
You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.